Alrighty, traders. This is Blake Morrow, and you are listening to the Daily Roundup webinar. I hope everybody's having a great trading session. So, equities, let's start there. I guess that's the place where we should start right at this moment in time. The stock market's really struggling as we're near this resistance. However, we haven't seen the market really show any weakness. I mean, we're more or less consolidating right at these levels, but there are some things in the FX market that suggest that we could move lower, and I think one of them is one of the pairs that I'm playing to the long side right now, and I just had it up, which is the dollar Canadian. If you were in the chat room today, I was saying that the dollar Canadian, we were down here at the 139. 15 level, and I'm like, man, there are buyers everywhere below 139. It was a 618 retracement, and eventually, just gave way and started rallying. And I hope those of you that were in the chat room did well with the dollar Canadian. I sold it as we were up here up against resistance, and it broke out, and then it came back down towards support. I bought a little bit in the mid 40s, and I'm long. And what I'm looking at is a possible double bottom. Double bottom in the dollar Canadian will do this, right? Roughly, roughly. It'll take us back above the 140 level and towards 140.50, maybe even farther than that, especially if you think about like this triangle that's building. All right, so that's one pair that I'm looking at, and I was trying to trade the dollar Mexican peso to the long side today, and I got stopped out below this support. You can see a support. This is horizontal support. However, it looks like we're holding. So again, this is building the case here for possible downside in equities. We're seeing some of these currency pairs start to show signs that the dollar is bottoming against them. Dollar Mexican pesos, we got pretty oversold intraday. Look at the 4-hour, the RSI is down there. Dollar Canadian, divergent, and we've been talking a lot about that, which is keeping the dollar Canadian, bid. The Aussie dollar failed at the 66-cent level again today. And notice, by the way, we've made lower highs. Do you notice that? Lower highs on the Aussie. Now, I don't know if I'd be too bearish the Aussie yet, but, we're near some support where, people start looking at this as a false breakout above here, right? Like this is a false breakout if we start breaking down from here. And again, I'm trying to build the case for a stronger dollar against some of these commodity currencies, because if stocks do turn lower, this should happen. So the Aussie would roll over and back down towards 64 cents or somewhere in this neighborhood. But that's what I'm looking at right now regarding the Aussie, the Canadian, the peso. And if you're sitting there wondering, well, what do we do with the yen? I really don't know. I look at the dollar yen and I'm like, yeah, I just don't know what to do with it. And therefore I'm kind of leaving it alone. One of the big reversals that we've seen too is the euro. So the euro came off pretty hard. I actually bought some euro down here at the 109.40 level this was happening just as the fix happened, and I spun out of it for like 7 or 8 pips, something like that. I just took profits on the bounce. But the euro dollar really came off that 110. No, we've been targeting this 108 to 110 range for a long time, and as I was telling the guys and gals in the chat room earlier today, look, I think the euro is actually going to break to the upside. I just don't know if today is the day. So what I'm more interested in doing, maybe the next couple of days, and I say that because it is Thursday. We're heading into a long weekend. I don't know if I really want to get long the euro down here ahead of the weekend, especially if we test 109 again. But I'd probably at least try to get long and see if I could get a good entry. the thing is if like, let's just fast forward to tomorrow afternoon being Friday, if we drop all the way down to, excuse me, if we drop all the way down to 109 and we close around there, I don't want to be long over the weekend and in a position that I'm not profitable. So we'd have to get down here in a hurry for me to pick it up and, you know, try to be a profitable position going into the weekend. But overall, I think if you're long the euro, you got to be a little concerned because of, you know, the resistance and failure up here at resistance that, you know, it's been doing every time, you know, 110 to 108. So just be careful with those positions if you're long the euro at this moment. And another big mover, which is gold. Okay, take a look at the gold market. The gold market has now. Let me do this. So the gold market's already starting to show us a failed breakout, and this is going to be, you know, a failed breakout on a weekly basis too, which could lead to, you know, further gold weakness, which would, you know, inherently give us some dollar strength. But I guess you have to think about it in what way the market's moving. Is the market moving? Is the stock market moving lower, you know, aggressively? You know, if the stock market's moving lower aggressively, would the dollar gain some strength and gold find its footing? I think it would. But if we're just, you know, just kind of bouncing around, gold might show us a false breakout here and, you know, give us another move here in the next week or two, you know, back down towards 1600, where, you know, you could probably be a buyer somewhere down in this neighborhood. That's what I would be thinking, at least right now. But gold is looking a little weaker, and I think it's vulnerable at this point in time. And that's pretty much it. You know, for those of you that have been following along with the euro pound, I took it off the table in the 80s this morning. The whole position, I actually would like to see a dip in the euro pound back towards, you know, the 89 pence level over the next couple of days. I'd like to see this move happen, and then be a buyer again, because I think eventually we're going to make our way up towards 90.50. I just, buying it right now, you know, on the day one of it starting to pull back, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Not right now. Dieter asks, hey Blake, what's your thoughts on the Aussie New Zealand? You know, I'm glad you asked. I actually, I didn't tell you guys in the chat room because I wasn't too convinced about it. I shorted some Aussie New Zealand earlier today at 44, and then I closed it at like 38 or something. It was just, it wasn't a big position. It was more of a just kind of messing around. But I have an order outstanding at 107. Well, I'll show you why I had it there in the first place. Overnight, I had a sell order at 107.70. Never got hit. Matter of fact, I should cancel that now. It's at 107.69, and so I'm going to suspend that for right now, because what I was thinking overnight is that I'd get hit over at the 50% retracement, but now we've actually dipped a little further than that. Okay, so any rally towards 107.60 probably will give us some good levels to sell from. And the one thing I think about, like the Aussie New Zealand, is I think it's had a great run, you know, higher. We have this little false breakout here. I think we can move a little bit lower, maybe back down towards 105, 105.50, somewhere down here. And then it's going to eventually make its run higher. But I think this false breakout is going to lead to a little bit of weakness. Again, I'm not short at the moment, and I shorted a little bit earlier, you know, as everything was kind of moving around, but I wasn't like super confident about it. So it's just one of those, like, just I scalped in and out of it. And I wouldn't mind selling a rally today or tomorrow, you know, if we can get a rally back up above 107.50, you know, 106.60, 107.60, 107.70, somewhere in that neighborhood. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about the Aussie New Zealand, at least right now. I don't think we have any economic data tonight. We have New Zealand retail sales, but that's not going to be too much of a mover, I don't think. And maybe it is. Maybe, you know, like a week retail sales out of New Zealand is enough to push us up towards 107.70 before rolling back over again. So, you know, maybe that's the way you want to play it. All right. So other than that, guys, if you're listening, you know, if you're listening to this after the fact, that means you're probably not a ForexAnalytix subscriber. So make sure you try us. It's $1 for 10 days. Then you can hear all of the webinars, not just mine, but also the European crossover with Paul Franco. Obviously, we do the face webinars, and you can be in the chat room. It's only $1 for 10 days to try it out. And then make sure you download the mobile app, because it doesn't matter what version you're using. You can use the mobile app with your trial. So guys, gals, have a great one. Remember, we will not be broadcasting on Monday because it is Memorial Day weekend here in the United States. It's an observed holiday, but we'll be back to full business on Tuesday. So have a great one. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you, Brock. See you, everybody. Talk to you later. And you're welcome.